are also referred to as the seven sages. In ancient India, it's Manu and the seven sages who appear after the flood, trying to restore the knowledge that was lost during the time of the flood.
Imagine a civilization thriving in the shadows of history, long before the pyramids of Egypt and the city-states of Mesopotamia emerged. Buried beneath the sands of time lies the mysterious Harappan Civilization, a culture that flourished with advanced cities and a script yet to be fully deciphered. How did they build their cities without modern tools? What mysteries do their symbols and artifacts hold? Join us as we delve into the fascinating story of the mysterious civilization that predates the Sumerians and Egyptians, the Harappan Civilization. Rediscovering the Harappan Civilization. In the 1850s, a few British officers had mentioned some mysterious mounds near the village of Harappa, in what was then northwestern British India. However, it wasn't until Alexander Cunningham, the Director General of the newly established Archaeological Survey of India, visited these mounds that they gained significant attention. Initially, Cunningham believed these mounds to be the remnants of an early medieval fortress. He made notes about his findings, including a peculiar seal with unfamiliar characters, but he and others didn't think much of them at the time. After an initial survey, Cunningham and his team left without recommending further exploration. The mounds were mostly forgotten for several decades, until the 1870s, when railway contractors, seeking old but sturdy bricks, plundered the area. It wasn't until 1902 when a young English archaeologist named John Marshall took over as the Director General of the Archaeological Survey of India that interest in Harappa reignited. Marshall had read about Cunningham's findings, including the mysterious seal, and in 1920, he decided to organize an excavation at Harappa. The digging commenced in 1921, revealing not only more seals with similar mysterious characters, but also the remains of brick houses, streets, drains, and figurines. Around the same time, another site called Mohenjo-Daro, southwest of Harappa, near the Indus River, was being excavated by a team led by Rakhal Das Banerjee, an Indian archaeologist. Initially mistaking it for an ancient Buddhist stupa from the 3rd or 4th century AD, Banerjee soon uncovered seals similar to those found at Harappa. Knowing ancient Indian languages, he realized these seals bore a script, unlike anything from that era, suggesting a much older civilization. By 1924, Sir John Marshall concluded after examining both Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro that they belonged to a previously unknown Bronze Age civilization, which he named the Indus Valley Civilization. Over the years, archaeologists unearthed ruins of numerous cities and towns in northwestern British India. These discoveries included streets, seals, and pottery, similar to those found in the Indus Valley. Interestingly, some major sites were located far from the Indus Valley itself. Hence, the term Harappan Civilization, derived from the place where it was initially found, became widely accepted. Today, some in India also refer to it as the Indus-Saraswati Civilization. Despite these alternatives, Harappan Civilization remains the most commonly used term to identify this ancient society. Unveiling Ancient Wonders. In a study published in the Dawn Journal, researchers from the Archaeological Society of India and IIT Kharagpur examined radiocarbon tests on ceramic fragments and animal bones from Burana, a village 140 miles northwest of New Delhi. Their findings confirmed that this settlement dates back at least 8,000 years. This places it much older than the ancient Egyptian and Sumerian civilizations by over 1,000 years, reshaping our understanding of early urban settlements in the region. Professor Anindya Sarkar from IIT Kharagpur's Department of Geology and Geophysics emphasized the significance. Our study establishes the settlement's antiquity to the 8th millennium BCE, significantly influencing our understanding of human evolution in the Indian subcontinent. Further studies indicate that at its zenith, the mysterious Harappan civilization boasted over 5 million inhabitants, a remarkable number for its time. By comparison, the Sumerian civilization, estimated to have had around 1.5 million people, pales in comparison. The inhabitants of this ancient city were not only skilled in urban planning, but also excelled in agriculture, metallurgy, and written communication. Their city was meticulously laid out in grids, featuring houses with distinct areas for different activities such as cooking, living, sleeping, and bathing, a layout just like modern homes. One of the most impressive achievements of the Harappan civilization was its advanced water management. Contrary to the primitive methods often associated with ancient societies, like carrying water in buckets or using basic latrines, the Harappan people had a sophisticated infrastructure. Their houses had plumbing systems and separate bathrooms, complemented by over 700 wells, and an elaborate sewage system that efficiently distributed water throughout the city. In a section of the city known as the Citadel, they constructed a remarkable 900-square-foot structure known as the Great Bath. This bath was filled by diverting water from the Indus River, an engineering marvel that predated the famous Roman baths by over 2,500 years. Remarkably, this lost civilization boasted one of the world's earliest known sanitary systems. Consider that Mohenjo-Daro, with a population ranging from 20,000 to 40,000, was just one of the Harappan cities. Rakhigarhi, discovered in 1969 and largely unexplored, was likely even larger. Who can say what hidden secrets and fascinating mysteries will be discovered about this ancient civilization as archaeologists continue to dig? If Rakhigarhi was the biggest city, could it have been the capital of the Harappan civilization? And if that's true, just think about how much more advanced it might have been compared to Mohenjo-Daro. Imagine the incredible technology and innovations they might have had. Phases of urbanization. Scholars have categorized the life of the Harappan civilization into three main phases. The first phase, known as the early Harappan period, spanned from approximately 3300 to 2600 BC. During this era, urbanization began to take shape in the Indus Valley. The second phase, the mature Harappan period, lasted from about 2600 to 1900 BC. This was the golden age of the Harappan civilization, marked by the rise of large, well-planned cities such as Harappa, Mohenjo-Daro, Kalibangan, Dholavira, and others. This is the period that will be the primary focus of this program. The final phase is the late Harappan period, which occurred from around 1900 to 1300 BC. During this time, the Harappan civilization began to decline, with many of its grand urban centers being abandoned or transformed into smaller, more rural settlements. Today, there are over 2,000 known Harappan archaeological sites of various sizes scattered over a vast area around the Indus Valley. This Harappan zone extends east to the upper Ganges River basin in north-central India, west to Sutkagandur near the Pakistan-Iran border, deep into Afghanistan where smaller but significant Harappan settlements have been discovered, and south to the area just north of Ahmednagar in Maharashtra. This vast region encompasses roughly 1.3 million square kilometers, about the size of France, Germany, and the United Kingdom combined. Like the ancient civilizations of Sumer, Egypt, the Bactria Margiana complex in China, the Harappan civilization was initially tied to a major river system, the Indus River and its many tributaries. The Indus, with its primary source in the melting snows of the Himalayan mountains, and augmented by the heavy rains of the summer monsoon, flows across the lowlands of Punjab and Sindh to empty into the Arabian Sea near modern Karachi, Pakistan. Another significant river, which 4,500 years ago may have been mightier than the Indus, is the Ghaggar-Hakra River. Today, it's mostly a dry riverbed, but the numerous Harappan settlements nearby suggest it once carried a substantial volume of water. Some believe the Ghaggar-Hakra could be the legendary Saraswati River described in early Hindu texts. In prehistoric and ancient times, the annual floods of these rivers provided fresh water and fertile silt, ideal for growing crops. Combined with a long growing season of high temperatures and constant sunshine, the Indus Valley region was perfect for large-scale farming. However, harnessing these river systems was a challenge. The Harappans had to manage unpredictable flooding, clear forests, and drained, swampy, mosquito-infested wetlands to create farmland. Once achieved, they grew crops like wheat, barley, peas, and cotton. Fields were plowed by oxen and sometimes camels, with donkeys later joining the workforce. By the 3rd millennium BC, Harappan cities in Gujarat and Maharashtra had domesticated elephants, and buffaloes, sheep, goats, and pigs were common sources of food and materials. Fish from the rivers and the sea also played a significant role in their diet. As in other parts of the world, consistent agricultural surpluses allowed segments of society to focus on other pursuits such as metalworking, town planning, engineering, and the arts. This division of labor contributed to the sophisticated and advanced nature of the Harappan civilization. The story of the Harappan civilization's beginnings is fascinating. Today, the Indus Valley sees less than 15 centimeters of rain each year, but scientists have found that during the 3rd millennium BC, the monsoons were much stronger and more dangerous. The combination of melting Himalayan snow and heavy annual rains required permanent settlements to be constructed from very durable materials. Unlike ancient Mesopotamia and Egypt, where mud bricks were common, the Harappans needed something sturdier due to their harsh climate. Mud bricks would easily erode or wash away during heavy rains and floods. To solve this, the Harappans invented burnt bricks. These were made from local clay, sand, and water, shaped into uniform rectangular blocks, dried in the sun, and then fired in kilns at temperatures over 800 degrees Celsius. The resulting bricks were incredibly tough and weather-resistant, so much so that in the late 19th century, they were repurposed for railway construction in Punjab. For the Harappan people, these bricks were essential for protecting their homes from the destructive monsoon rains and floods. During the mature Harappan phase, the use of bronze became widespread. Bronze was used to create tools, ornaments, figurines, toys, needles, jewelry, and weapons. The numerous bronze forges found in Harappan cities highlight the significance of this metal in their society, although copper items were also still prevalent. To make bronze, both copper and tin were needed, but these metals were scarce in the Indus Valley. Cities like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa had to import them, with copper coming from mines in Balochistan and Rajasthan, and tin from Afghanistan. The discovery of large Harappan settlements in these distant regions suggests that long-distance trade was established to secure these vital resources, likely playing a major role in spreading Harappan culture. Harappan traders likely exchanged goods such as cotton, grain, wood, shells, and crafted items like carnelian beads for the copper and tin they needed. This extensive trade network not only provided essential materials for the Harappans, but also helped disseminate their culture throughout the Indian subcontinent and beyond. Mysteries of the Harappan civilization. Some genetic studies reveal an intriguing fact about the ancient farmers of the Indus Valley. Unlike their neighbors in what is now Iran, who are considered among the first to develop agriculture over 10,000 years ago, the Harappan farmers did not share close genetic ties with them. This suggests that the spread of agriculture wasn't uniform across regions. In many parts of the world, agriculture spread as people migrated and mixed with different populations. For example, genetic studies in Europe show that Stone Age farmers carried their agricultural knowledge across the continent as they moved and intermingled with various communities. However, this wasn't the case with the Harappan population. Their genetics remain distinct from those of neighboring groups who developed agriculture before 8000 BC. This raises fascinating questions. Did the ancient Harappan people develop farming on their own, or did they learn it from some unknown source? Given that the Harappan civilization is older than both the Egyptian and Sumerian civilizations, it's worth pondering if they could have been the ones to pass on this knowledge to these ancient cultures. Furthermore, if there was a social and political hierarchy in the Harappan civilization, who held the top position? Was it a king, a priest who served both spiritual and political roles, or perhaps a governing council? Scholars have debated these questions, offering various theories. Whoever held authority likely resided in the Acropolis area of the city, possibly within a citadel if present. Another mystery is the extent of their power within a typical Harappan city. With little evidence of military culture or standing armies in most cities, how did the leadership enforce its decisions on the population? These questions continue to intrigue researchers, urging them to explore further for answers. One theory suggests that specific groups of people were selected to handle various government tasks. Each city probably had its own council, which reported to a central council overseeing the entire civilization. Considering the vast distances between the various cities of the Harappan civilization, this decentralized yet organized government structure is quite impressive. The way the Harappan civilization governed itself was so unique and ahead of its time that UNESCO's Courier Journal dedicated an entire article to it. The article was called The Indus Valley Civilization, Cradle of Democracy, and suggested that the Harappan people might have invented democracy thousands of years before the ancient Greeks. Harappan writing system. Trade was bustling in the Harappan cities, making it crucial to track inventories and the movement of goods to and from distant lands. Scholars speculate that this necessity led to the development of what is believed to be the Harappan writing system. Unlike the deciphered cuneiform of Mesopotamia or the hieroglyphs of Egypt, the Harappan script remains a mystery. It's known that it was written left to right, evident from condensed text on some seals. Instead of an alphabet, it consists of over 400 pictographs. Most of these writings are found on small, simple stone seals, lacking epics or literature. The prevailing theory suggests these seals were used in trade, possibly as ownership markers or identifiers in long-distance commerce. The animals and symbols on them likely indicated the origins or destinations of traded goods. Alternatively, some argue they served to identify individuals, possibly bearing personal names or titles similar to modern ID cards. Another hypothesis suggests a ritual or religious role given depictions of mythological creatures. Despite these theories, the true purpose of these puzzling seals remains elusive without deciphering the script. Archaeologists and historians must find it incredibly frustrating because deciphering this script could confirm their theories and reveal much more about Harappan life, including their own names for themselves and their cities. The challenge of decoding the mysterious Harappan script has puzzled scientists for decades, prompting a $10,000 prize since 2004 for anyone who can decipher a Harappan text of about 50 characters. To date, no one has succeeded. With so much mystery shrouding this ancient culture, unlocking its script could be the key to unraveling its secrets. Nevertheless, studies comparing the Harappan script to other symbolic systems, both linguistic and non-linguistic, reveal significant similarities, hinting at its potential as a developed written language in many instances. The challenge of deciphering the Harappan script is akin to cracking codes found in DNA and computer programming languages. Yet, despite advances in statistical analysis aided by powerful computers, the script remains deeply enigmatic. Its brevity and sparse examples per sequence hinder both human and machine understanding. Moreover, the variability of symbols alongside images on seals adds further complexity, lacking the consistency needed for a unified interpretation. To complicate matters, interpretations so far are largely speculative rather than conclusive. Unlike the Rosetta Stone, which enabled the decoding of ancient Egyptians by providing text in multiple languages, the Harappan script lacks such bilingual clues. This absence of multilingual text poses a significant hurdle in unraveling its meaning. Nevertheless, efforts persist to decode the Harappan script, driven by the hope of unlocking the mysteries of this ancient civilization. Unique religious practices. One surprising aspect of the Harappan civilization is the absence of large temples dedicated to worship. Unlike the Egyptian and Sumerian civilizations, known for their elaborate temple complexes honoring numerous deities, Harappan cities lack such monumental structures. The Great Bath in Mohenjo-Daro stands out as possibly the only ceremonial monument discovered so far. This suggests that cleanliness and orderliness were highly valued by the Harappan people, possibly playing a significant role in their religious or spiritual practices. Some experts speculate that purification rituals or religious ceremonies focused on water might have been conducted within the citadel, reinforcing the importance of water in their beliefs. This contrasts sharply with ancient Egypt, where grand temples, tombs, and monuments glorifying pharaohs as divine rulers were prevalent. Archaeologists have unearthed Indus seals and artistic artifacts that hint at religious beliefs. For instance, the famous Priest King figurine from Mohenjo-Daro and the Dancing Girl bronze statue depict aspects of Harappan culture that may be linked to religious or ceremonial practices. While some argue these artifacts represent religious figures or rituals, others suggest they could symbolize various gods or spiritual concepts, similar to ancient Egyptian practices. Early and influential research in this field, which shaped Hindu interpretations of archaeological findings from Harappan sites, was pioneered by John Marshall. In 1931, Marshall identified several key features of the Indus religion: a great male god and a mother goddess, reverence for animals and plants, symbolic representations of the phallus and vulva, and the use of water in religious rituals. Marshall's interpretations have sparked considerable debate and scrutiny over the decades that followed. One particularly notable artifact is an Indus Valley seal depicting a seated figure with a horned headdress, possibly with 3 heads and possibly depicted as sexually aroused, surrounded by animals. Marshall interpreted this figure as an early representation of the Hindu deity Shiva, also known as Rudra, who is associated with asceticism, yoga, and the linga symbol. Shiva is also revered as the lord of animals and is often depicted with 3 eyes. This seal has since been named the Pashupati seal, referencing Shiva's epithet Pashupati, meaning lord of all animals. While Marshall's interpretations have found support, they have also faced criticism. Doris Srinivasan argues that the figure lacks 3 faces or a yogic posture, and points out that in Vedic literature, Rudra was not a protector of wild animals. Herbert Sullivan and Alf Hiltebeitel have challenged Marshall's conclusions as well, with Sullivan suggesting the figure is female and Hiltebeitel associating it with Mahisha, the buffalo god, and the surrounding animals as vehicles of deities for the 4 cardinal directions. Gregory L. Possehl, writing in 2002, suggests that while acknowledging the figure as a deity and its association with the water buffalo and ritual discipline, interpreting it as a proto-Shiva may be stretching the evidence too far. Despite debates over Marshall's identification of the seal with a proto-Shiva icon, some scholars, such as Vilas Sangave in Jainism studies, interpret it as representing the Tirthankara Rishabhanatha. Historians like Heinrich Zimmer and Thomas McEvely propose a possible connection between the first Jain Tirthankara Rishabhanatha and the Indus Valley civilization. Marshall proposed the idea of a mother goddess cult based on excavations of female figurines, suggesting a link to the later Hindu Shaktism. However, the role of these figurines in Indus Valley life remains unclear. Possehl, however, questions the strength of Marshall's theory. Some objects Marshall identified as sacred phallic symbols are now believed to have been used as pestles or game pieces instead. Similarly, ringstones once thought to symbolize the yoni may have served as architectural elements for standing pillars, though their religious significance cannot be ruled out. Indus Valley seals often depict animals, some shown in processions, while others feature mythical creatures. A Mohenjo-Daro seal portrays a half-human, half-buffalo monster attacking a tiger, a striking similarity with the Sumerian legend where a similar creature was created by the goddess Aruru to challenge Gilgamesh. Now it's time for today's subscriber pick. In the heart of a dense jungle, where sunlight struggled to pierce the thick canopy, lay the remnants of an ancient city. Moss-covered stone structures rose like sentinels from the earth, each engraved with intricate symbols that hinted at a civilization lost to time. Scholars had dubbed it the Harappan Civilization, a name whispered in archaeological circles with reverence and intrigue. Among the ruins stood a temple, its walls adorned with carvings of celestial beings and mythic creatures. A lone explorer, Dr. Jane Hayes, ventured into its depths, her flashlight casting eerie shadows across the ancient glyphs. "This mysterious civilization predates the Sumerians and Egyptians," she muttered, reading an inscription etched into a weathered pillar. As Jane studied the carvings, she marveled at their advanced craftsmanship. Each line and each curve told a story of a people skilled in art and architecture. Yet, beneath the beauty lay mysteries. Who were these people? What drove them to build such a city amidst the jungle's embrace? And why did they vanish, leaving only echoes of their existence? Outside the temple, the jungle whispered its secrets, as if guarding the answers within its verdant embrace. The city itself seemed to hold its breath, awaiting discovery and understanding. Could Jane unravel the enigma of this lost civilization, or would its secrets remain entwined with the roots of time? What tales do the stones of this forgotten city whisper to those who dare to listen? Insights into ancient life. Numerous artifacts from the Indus Valley, including seals, pottery, terracotta figurines, stone sculptures, gold jewelry, and bronze vessels, have been unearthed during excavations. Among these discoveries are intricately detailed figurines made of terracotta, bronze, and steatite, with some likely serving as toys. The Harappans were also skilled in crafting toys and games, such as cubicle dice found at sites like Mohenjo-Daro. The terracotta figurines depict various animals like cows, bears, monkeys, and dogs. However, the most iconic image found on many seals from the mature period remains a mystery. It depicts a creature that appears part bull, part zebra, adorned with a majestic horn, sparking much speculation. While it's unclear if this image held religious or ritual significance due to limited evidence, its widespread presence prompts questions about the spiritual beliefs embedded in Indus Valley civilization imagery. Various crafts such as shellworking, ceramics, and making agate and glazed steatite beads were practiced during all phases of Harappan culture, creating necklaces, bangles, and other ornaments. Some of these traditional crafts continue in the Indian subcontinent today. Additionally, makeup and toiletry items found in Harappan contexts, like special combs known as kakai, collyrium, and a versatile toiletry tool, have parallels in modern Indian practices. Terracotta female figurines from around 2800 to 2600 BCE were also discovered, some adorned with red hair partitions. Archaeological discoveries from 2000 to 3000 BC in Lothal include board game pieces resembling chess. The artifacts excavated from Mohenjo-Daro were initially housed in the Lahore Museum and later moved to the ASI headquarters in New Delhi. As plans for a new museum for the British Raj's capital progressed, discussions arose concerning the distribution of finds as Indian independence approached. Following negotiations, about 12,000 objects, predominantly pottery sherds, were divided equally between India and Pakistan. Notably, items like necklaces and girdles were split into separate piles. Among the most famous sculptures, Pakistan received the priest king figure, while India retained the dancing girl. Although written much later, the Natya Shastra categorizes musical instruments into 4 groups based on how they produce sound: strings, membranes, solid materials, and air. Such instruments were likely used during the Harappan Civilization period. Archaeological findings show the use of basic rattles and flute-like instruments made from hollowed-out vessels. Images from that time also suggest that early harps and drums were part of their musical culture. An ideogram from the IVC contains the earliest known depiction of an arched harp, dating back to before 1800 BCE. The decline of the Harappan civilization. Within just a century of its peak, the Harappan civilization faced a sudden and steep decline, leading to the eventual collapse of most areas. This mystery has puzzled archaeologists and scholars since the excavations of Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro. As expected, numerous theories abound regarding the causes of this decline. Today, most scholars reject the notion of a single cause, instead pointing to a combination of factors over several generations. Previously, it was commonly believed that foreign invaders, particularly the Aryans from Central Asia, were responsible for the downfall. However, this theory has largely been dismissed, given the Aryans' arrival several centuries later. Modern archaeologists and the wider scientific community now attribute the decline of the Harappan civilization to climate change, environmental degradation such as deforestation, and possibly seismic activity that altered the courses of crucial rivers. Imagine this scenario. Around 1900 BC, reduced rainfall may have caused significant rivers like the Indus, Ghaggar Hakra, and others to change their paths or dry up entirely. These waterways were vital to sustaining Harappan cities, and their disappearance would have devastated agricultural yields and forced populations to migrate. The question remains, where did they go? Possible to other nearby cities and towns that shared the same culture, language, and way of life. However, the rapid influx to these cities and towns would have led to significant challenges, including overpopulation. Even in areas that could withstand drought effects, the influx of people caused food shortages and increased population density. This density, in turn, made outbreaks of disease more likely. The Harappan civilization relied heavily on agriculture, which required clearing forests to create new farmland for growing crops and grazing animals. As the population grew and agricultural needs increased, more land had to be cleared. At the same time, the demand for wood, used for fuel and in kilns for making burnt bricks, intensified. This extensive deforestation had numerous negative effects on the environment and society. One of the most severe impacts of deforestation is soil erosion. Trees stabilize the soil, preventing erosion by rain, wind, and flooding, which is common in the Indus Valley. Without trees, soil fertility declines, making it harder to grow crops and leading to food shortages, economic instability, and social unrest. With rivers drying up and forests disappearing, the land could no longer support the growing Harappan population. Many people who didn't succumb to starvation left their homes in search of food and better opportunities elsewhere. Some migrated eastward to the fertile plains along the Ganges River, while others headed south where the local environment might have been more hospitable and predictable. Many scholars generally accept this hypothesis today. By 1800 BC, although the great cities of Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa had largely been abandoned, remnants of Harappan culture persisted in other regions for a few more centuries. Over time, new peoples migrated into these areas, and the once dominant Harappan cultural zone and its people merged with or were absorbed into the emerging Vedic society on the subcontinent during the second millennium BC. Could the secrets of the Harappan civilization rewrite our understanding of ancient history? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.